Captain Marcus Chen had encountered 47 different alien species during his 15 years exploring the Outer Rim territories, but none had captivated him quite like Zara. She was part of the Veilani delegation aboard the research station, Prometheus, and for 3 months now, she had never once removed the shimmering biomask that covered the upper half of her face. The mask itself was a marvel of Veilani technology, a living membrane that shifted colors with her emotions currently, displaying soft silver patterns that Marcus had learned meant contentment. Through its translucent surface, he could make out the suggestion of features, but never their true form. "The neural interface diagnostics are complete," Zara announced, her voice carrying that melodic quality unique to her species. She stood at the main console, her slender fingers dancing across holographic displays with practiced precision. "Your human brain patterns are fascinating." Marcus smiled, setting down his coffee, real earth coffee, a luxury out here in the void. "Fascinating good or fascinating concerning?" "Fascinating beautiful," she replied without hesitation, those silver patterns on her mask shifting to warm gold. "Your species thinks in such chaotic harmony, like a symphony written by madmen, yet somehow it creates the most incredible music." It was moments like these that made Marcus wonder what lay beneath that mask. The Veilani were humanoid in basic structure, but that's where the similarities ended. Their skin held an opalescent quality, shifting between pale blues and deep purples depending on the light. Zara stood nearly 7 feet tall, her movements possessing an otherworldly grace that made Marcus feel clumsy by comparison. "The other species we've encountered," Marcus said carefully, "they don't hide their faces from us." The colors on Zara's mask immediately shifted to deep burgundy. Embarrassment, he'd learned. She turned away, focusing intently on a secondary display that clearly didn't need her attention. "My people are private," she murmured. "Even from friends?" "Especially from friends." Over the following weeks, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn to these conversations with Zara. She was brilliant. Her understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional theory far surpassed even the most advanced human scientists. But more than that, she was kind. When Ensign Rodriguez had been injured during a routine maintenance operation, Zara had spent 18 straight hours developing a new healing compound specifically for human physiology. "Why did you volunteer for this mixed species assignment?" Marcus asked one evening as they worked alone in the lab. The question had been weighing on his mind. Zara's mask displayed soft violet swirls as she considered her answer. "I wanted to understand humans better. Your species is remarkable." "How so?" "You're the only species we've encountered that loves unconditionally," she said quietly. "The Corthians love based on genetic compatibility. The Vexari love based on intellectual merit. The Zephyrites love based on social status. But humans love despite flaws, despite differences, despite logic itself." Marcus felt his heart rate increase, a fact he was sure Zara's advanced sensors could detect. "And you find that interesting?" "I find it terrifying." The mask shifted to deep blue, sadness, longing. "Because I have experienced it firsthand." The admission hung between them like a quantum field waiting to collapse into reality. Marcus stepped closer, close enough to smell the strange, sweet scent that always surrounded her, like ozone after a thunderstorm mixed with blooming jasmine. "Zara, don't." She backed away, her hands instinctively moving to her mask. "Please don't ask me to." "I'm not asking you to do anything," Marcus said gently. "I'm just saying your name." For a long moment they stood in silence. The lab hummed around them, filled with the soft blue glow of quantum processors and the distant thrum of the station's artificial gravity generators. "In Veilani culture," Zara finally said, "we believe that love is a transaction. Beauty for protection, intelligence for resources, status for genetic advantage. We are taught from birth that love is conditional, that it must be earned and maintained." "And you think humans are different?" "I know you are." She turned to face him fully. You have shown me kindness without expectation. You have shared your thoughts, your culture, your terrible coffee. This with a hint of golden amusement on her mask, without asking for anything in return. You have given me something I never thought I could have. What's that? Acceptance. Marcus took another step forward. Then why are you afraid to show me your face? The mask flickered through a rapid sequence of colors: fear, hope, despair, longing. When it settled, the patterns were unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Deep crimson shot through with silver threads like lightning in a sunset sky. Because, she whispered, I am not beautiful by any species standards. I am what my people call Kelthan, the broken mirror. And I know that human love may be remarkable, but it is not miraculous. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he gently placed his hands over hers where they pressed against her mask. Zara, he said softly, I've spent 3 months falling in love with your mind, your kindness, your terrible jokes about quantum mechanics, and the way you hum when you think no one is listening. I've fallen in love with how you stay up late to make sure the environmental systems are perfect for every species on this station, and how you always remember that I like my coffee too strong and my data reports too detailed. Her mask was now cycling rapidly through colors he'd never seen before. I've fallen in love with you, he continued, not with some imagined face beneath a mask. Whatever you look like, whatever scars or differences you think make you unlovable, they're part of who you are, and I love who you are. For a heartbeat that felt like eternity, Zara stood motionless. Then, with trembling fingers, she reached up and touched the edge of her mask. The biomembrane recognized her genetic signature and began to dissolve. What Marcus saw took his breath away, not because it was terrible, but because it was uniquely, wonderfully her. The left side of Zara's face bore the same opalescent beauty as the rest of her skin, but the right side was marked with deep, intricate scarring that created patterns like fractured starlight. Her left eye was the soft violet he'd imagined, but her right eye was a startling silver, clearly artificial but somehow more beautiful for its difference. A childhood accident, she said, her voice barely audible. I was curious about human technology. The explosion nearly killed me. Marcus traced the scarred patterns with his fingertip, marveling at their complexity. You're beautiful, he said simply. Not despite these scars, but including them. They're part of your story, part of what made you brave enough to work with humans, part of what gave you empathy for others who feel different. Tears, actual tears not so different from human ones, began to flow down Zara's face. I don't understand how you can... Because love isn't about perfection, Marcus interrupted, gently. It's about seeing someone completely, flaws, fears, scars and all, and choosing them anyway, every day, not because they're perfect, but because they're perfectly themselves. Zara looked up at him with both her natural eye and her artificial one, and for the first time Marcus could see her complete smile. Your species, she said, reaching up to touch his face in return, is indeed remarkable. Later, as they stood together watching the stars wheel past the observation deck, Zara asked quietly, what happens now, when this assignment ends, when we return to our respective worlds? Marcus squeezed her hand, scarred and perfect and entirely hers. Now we prove that love isn't bound by species or distance or the expectations of others. We write our own story. In the vastness of space, surrounded by the infinite possibilities of the universe, 2 beings from different worlds discovered that the greatest adventure wasn't exploring new galaxies, it was learning to be vulnerable with another soul. And perhaps, Marcus thought as Zara's silver eye caught the light of distant suns, that was the most human thing of all. To love not because it was logical or safe or expected, but because it was necessary, because some connections transcend, species transcend difference, transcend fear itself. In the end, it wasn't humanity's technology or weapons or territorial expansion that marked them as special among the stars. It was their stubborn, illogical, beautiful refusal to let anything, including their own limitations, stop them from loving completely, even when that love wore a mask, especially then.